So, Noam, I am very grateful to you for talking to me and the students at the University of Waterloo. Your project's very interesting, and your views on artificial intelligence are something that are going to be, very helpful to people in understanding these things. Can you begin just by telling me what your current job is with IBM? You're the lead researcher on Project Debater, but what do you do in your job?
So first of all, it's a pleasure to be talking to you today and through you to the students of your class. So hello, everybody. And I joined IBM Research so I did my PhD at the Hebrew University, then I did a postdoc at Princeton University, and then I joined IBM Research in 2007. And in 2011, just a few days after IBM demonstrated Watson in the Jeopardy event, there was a call for proposal across the entire IBM Research division, asking us what should be the next grand challenge for IBM Research. And I was intrigued by that, so I offered my office mate at the time to brainstorm together. We sat in the office in Tel Aviv, and eventually I suggested this notion of developing a machine that will be able to treat humans. This was 2011. This started a long and thorough review process that lasted for a year, and eventually in 2012, this proposal was selected as the next grand challenge for IBM Research in the sequence of chess in the 90s and Watson in Jeopardy in 2011. We started to work with a small team that gradually expanded, and eventually earlier this year, after quite a few years of intensive work, we demonstrated the system for the first time to the broad audience in a live debate that was held in San Francisco between the system now being called Project Debater and one of the top debaters on earth, Mr. Harish Natarajan. And I'm the principal investigator of this project, of Project Debater. And this is in a nutshell what we did in the last few years.
Thank you. Great background. And the Project Debater is applying what are, I understand, called computational argumentation technologies. Before I ask you to describe the project, could you explain what those technologies are?
Yes, so there is a community working on what is called today computational argumentation. It is not a very wide community, and there are various research questions there. What is, I think, one of the points where we see most of the overlap between what we are doing and what this community is doing is really around what is known as argument mining, being able to automatically detect arguments within documents or within a large collection of documents. And there were, I would say, a handful of teams working on that when we started in 2012. But today, this is a rapidly evolving research area. So we are talking about, I think, between more than 50 teams around the globe working around this problem, because I think people understand that this is an interesting and important research question with a lot of applications. And this is our connection to the computational argumentation community. They do other things, of course. They somehow try to understand where computer science can help this very important field of argumentation in general. But we connect to that mainly through argument mining and some other questions. And we are very active in this community, organizing workshops, tutorials, and so on.
Okay, so you are using these technologies in what you've described as Project Debater. Can you tell me what you are creating there? What is Project Debater?
So our goal was really to develop the first AI, artificial intelligence system, that can debate with a human in a meaningful manner. And the way the system actually operates is, first of all, I think we need to understand what we mean by a debate between, in this context. So the debate usually starts with a motion that defines what we are debating about. In the case of the debate in San Francisco, it was whether or not the government should subsidize preschools. There are many considerations around how this motion is being selected, which I'm kind of skipping, but I will emphasize, obviously it is being selected from a list of motions that were never used in the training data of the system. The system was never trained on this topic. It was trained on other topics, and then it needs to debate this topic. Then we are on the government side, and Harish Natarajan was on the opposition, and we have opening statements of 4 minutes for each side, and then rebuttal speeches of 4 minutes for each side, and closing statements of 2 minutes for each side. All in all, including pauses, we are talking about 25 minutes of a discussion between man and machine on a complex topic. The way we, and this debate is the full live debate is available on YouTube. You just type in Project Debater, and everybody are encouraged to watch it. I think it's an interesting experience to see that. And in terms of how the technology actually operates at a high level, it has two major sources of information. One of them is a massive corpus, a very large collection of newspaper articles, around 400 million, 10 billion sentences. And when the debate starts, the system is trying to pinpoint within this corpus short pieces of text, like nuggets of text that satisfy 3 criteria. They should be relevant to the topic. They should be argumentative in nature. They should argue something about the topic, and they should support our side of the debate. And once these are found, the system is using other modules, other artificial intelligence modules, to somehow glue these short pieces of text in a meaningful manner into a narrative that the system will be using during the debate. So this is one important source of information for the system. The other important source of information is a very interesting collection of something that we call more principled arguments that basically are authored by humans, by expert team members. And we developed that over the last few years. We have thousands of more principled argumentative elements within this collection. And when the debate starts, the system is navigating, so to speak, within this collection, within this knowledge graph, searching for the most relevant principled arguments, trying to use them in the right timing. I can elaborate, if you wish, later on what we mean by a principled argument. And finally, of course, there is rebuttal. We need somehow to respond to the arguments made by the opponent. And here what the system is doing is really, it starts by listening to the opponent, to the words being articulated by the human debater. And for that, we just use Watson speech recognition capabilities out of the box. But of course, we need to go beyond the words and somehow understand the gist of the speech of the opponent. And the way we approach it, we have an arsenal of techniques that are basically trying to anticipate in advance what kind of claims, what kind of statements the opposition might use in the debate, and then listen to determine whether indeed the opposition was making these claims, and then respond accordingly. Okay, so this is at a very high level how the system works.
Very interesting, and being able to do this, to create this technology, presumably requires an understanding of argument and human behavior, but as well as the ability to make the technology perform in the ways that you want it to perform. So within your research team, you presumably need people with both of these capabilities, and you need to put them together. And that's not always easy, I assume.
Yeah, this is a good point. And I think we had the privilege of building a relatively interdisciplinary team with various expertise. Of course, most of the people that we have in the team are IBM researchers with expertise in artificial intelligence or with language technologies known as, natural language processing techniques and so on. These are kind of the basic skills that we needed. We needed to enhance this team with additional people. So, for example, we had debate experts. We still have a world champion debater in the team, actually helping us. We also had several debaters that were part of the team helping us to collect data that was used to evaluate the performance of the system and to train the system. We had at some point a student from the philosophy department at the university helping us to better understand how to build these more principled arguments that I mentioned. We had an author with kind of he's not even a computer scientist. He has a good attitude to computer science, but he's a fairly known author in Israel. And we needed him to write special type of content that we use to spice the debate, because we know that in debate you need some kind of colorful comments sometimes, and you need some kind of pieces of text that connect the other pieces of text to make the narrative more smooth. So it was a fairly interdisciplinary effort, and this was part of the fun.
Very interesting. And to be able to create a technology that can participate in debates, I think is very interesting, and it implies lots of challenges in how you would put that together. But I'm keen to understand what the business value of Project Debater would be. Why does IBM want to do this, and why might companies be willing to buy it?
So I say it's a good question, and I will try to answer it at multiple levels. So first of all, when we started the work and over the years when we pursued this work, I think we were privileged to get this envelope from IBM and IBM Research in particular, telling us, don't worry about the business applications. We have some kind of an underlying understanding that this eventually will evolve into important business for IBM, but we give you the mandate to do this research in the purely scientific and explorative sense. And this is a special privilege. You don't always have this opportunity to work with a fairly large team of excellent researchers and to be very focused on a very concrete goal, right? We knew all the time that eventually we're going to demonstrate the system through this full live debate, the human debater. So this gave the team a lot of focus. So I think one reason for IBM to do that is really to advance science, and in the context of artificial intelligence and natural language understanding, this should be seen as part of a more general journey taken by IBM Research to develop technologies that will be able to eventually master human language. I just noticed I'm giving a lot of compliments to IBM while my machine is nearly out of battery and it may run dead in a minute. So let me see if I can plug it in, and I'm back in a minute.
Sure, and we can edit this part of the video.
Sure. What is there? Just a second. Okay. So I think we're good now. And then there is, of course, the question of business applications. So first of all, what we started to do, the live demonstration was back in February, so nearly a year ago. And since then, we were working on several threads. First of all, breaking this monolith system into more modular services that can be consumed in a more tangible manner by selected customers of IBM. So we build this platform of more modular services, because the vision is really not to sell a debater as is to IBM customer, but rather to use the underlying capabilities to build solutions to real-world problems. So this is one issue to consider. But I think at a more abstract level, we all share the understanding that this has a lot of potential value because it touches on something which is really fundamental to our lives. If you think about it, most of the questions that you encounter through life do not have a simple factual answer. What they have is really, when you need to take a decision, right, it means that you are facing a complex question that do not have an answer. It actually has pros and cons that need to be carefully considered. And these technologies are really trying to nail this down, trying to help people take more informed decisions. We think the potential is quite significant.
And presumably today, as the world changes more quickly and organizations are impacted by the fourth industrial revolution, they're having to make complex decisions more quickly, and this would support that, right?
Yes, absolutely. If you pause and think about it and ask yourselves, okay, I'm taking decisions all the time, and leaders in governments, in large organizations are also taking decisions all the time. But if you pose the question, what are the technologies that were developed explicitly to enhance this process of decision making? I think there are not so many, right? And we understand that we understand that when we face a decision, there are pros and cons, right? And these can be found either in large collection of documents, of articles, but what you have there are search engines, right, which are not really helpful, right, for this particular task. And there is the other direction of saying, you know, maybe someone that I know has an opinion or a relevant argument that I can use. Maybe one of my friends, my colleagues, someone in my family. But again, it's not clear what are the technologies that you have that you can easily consult with a large collection of people to get their opinions. And this is the gap that we are trying to bridge in the work that we are doing.
And that gap and the value of this technology would seem to be something that governments might take advantage of too. They're making decisions where there are a range of opinions and points of view on a decision. So, you know, maybe you could talk about whether it's got that potential, but also the challenges that are being faced by democratic systems today in dealing with the requirement to respond to more quick change in society might also mean that it would be more valuable in the operation of democracies today than it may have been in the past, particularly maybe where opinion is polarized.
Yes, I fully agree. And I think it has the potential to help governments and to some extent to improve the communication between citizens and their governments. There is a new evolution of Project Debater, something that we call speech by crowd, which is really focused on crowdsourcing arguments from everybody around controversial topics, which we think has a lot of implications. And this, basically, we ask ourselves the question, what will happen if we will pose a controversial topic and allow everybody to contribute their opinions, their pro and con arguments? Can we use debater technology in order to generate concise and compelling narratives out of the contributions of many, many different individuals? And we demonstrated this capability most recently in Cambridge, UK, in the kind of most prestige debate club on earth. This is also available on YouTube, so this can also be found, and it was quite an interesting experience. And I think what is really happening there is we perceive that as a way to build an effective communication channel between the decision maker on the one hand and the people that might be impacted by the decision on the other hand. So I think this is a very important step in the direction of governments using that in their context. So think about what happened in France over the last year, and I think Macron was saying, I would like actually to have sessions with citizens to understand what they think about the situation in our country and how we should approach that and so on. But this is not really an efficient way to simply move physically from one place to the other. How many people can you meet in this way? Compare that to an opportunity of saying everybody can contribute, and we have AI that will try to enhance the discussion. For example, automatically identifying the top quality arguments, all the attention of the decision maker to these arguments first, or automatically identify the most common themes that spontaneously emerge from all these individual contributions. This is, we believe, are quite important applications of the technology.
Yeah, presumably it may strengthen and enable participative forms of democracy that were not possible before without the technology. I mean, the vast numbers of people, would be able to participate.
I agree. We did an interesting experiment. We did a couple of experiments with that. One of them was in the United Nations event in Geneva, where we basically posed the question whether social media brings more harm than good. We allowed everybody to contribute arguments, and very quickly we collected like 1,500 arguments, and then we presented on stage the digestion of these results and kind of a concise narrative supporting or contesting this topic. We had another demonstration in Switzerland, in Lugano, where the city of Lugano were kind of curious to see what they can do with that. And they posed the question of whether they should encourage the use of autonomous cars in the city of Lugano. And again, I think more than 2,000 arguments were collected contributed by many people with interest on that. And the city mayor was able, to listen to their voice through the system. These are, of course, proof of concept. It's not kind of a product that IBM is selling today, but I think it makes an interesting point.
Yeah, and Switzerland is an interesting place to do this, given, that many things are voted on in Switzerland, and there is a commitment, an interest in more participative democracy there too. So it's an interesting place to try it out.
Absolutely.
The thing that occurred to me, though, would be that potentially this technology could be used for businesses or governments to be more manipulative. So if they have this higher level of knowledge, that to be able to then design a response that enables the objective of the organization to be achieved would be possible. And this, I guess, caused me to reflect on how the internet is used and how technology is used today, either to enhance democracy or to strengthen the position of dictators. And it seemed to me that possibly, and you may know better, this technology could be used negatively as well as positively.
I think this is a valid statement about many technologies that humanity is trying to, people are trying to develop. I wouldn't rank this particular technology as a very high risk compared to others, but still the issue is valid and it's there. And I think this is the responsibility of the researchers to be attentive to that and to take that into account. I think IBM is very much involved in being careful about how we advance AI and do that in a responsible manner, in an ethical manner. And I think part of the answer is to be transparent about how do you develop the technology, what exactly it is capable of doing, what are the limitations, and try to, and we are very transparent about that. Over the years, we published to date around 45 papers in the relevant computer science conferences. And we are very open about how this works and what it can do and what it cannot do. And also, I think we have the responsibility of trying to find use cases that will have a positive impact. And I think the potential there is quite significant, even in the context of education. At the end of the day, if we can contribute to education of youngsters to have a better understanding how to analyze complex topics and how to see the arguments of the other side in a more rational manner, and then respond to that and understand what is a high quality argument, what is a low quality argument, I think this could be quite beneficial.
And continuing with the ethical questions around this, I mean, we know that there are concerns in the debate over artificial intelligence itself about potential negative impacts versus the positive impacts, which we've been considering. But with this technology, do you think it will impact job numbers or the quality of jobs? Are there job impacts from this type of artificial intelligence that you can see?
So again, it's an interesting point. I think what we see over history is that as technology advances, some jobs are disappearing and new jobs are being created. So I think this will happen with AI as well. This is my impression. And specifically in the context of debater technology, I think it has the potential to enhance and help people do their job and fulfill their role in a more effective manner. Because if for example, your job is really to analyze, let's say you are an analyst or a journalist, or you work in a consulting company and you would like to quickly analyze a complex topic and understand the pros and cons, I think really the technology that we are developing could be quite useful in this context. It can complete that in a more effective manner, and perhaps even the output would be of greater quality.
So overall, what you seem to be saying is that there are many benefits that this technology will provide, and while there are concerns, that our response to that should be responsible and ethical management and use of the technology to ensure that it has a positive impact rather than a negative one.
Absolutely. Well stated.
I'm glad. I only have one more question. We're coming to the end of our half hour, and the question's a very simple one. It's one I ask almost everyone I interview. But students are going to be watching this who are going to be moving into the workforce if they've not already done so. And I like to ask what the main advice, what you think the most important advice would be that you could give them as they do that, as you reflect on your own experience, and what would be valuable to them that will make their lives better.
I'm obviously biased because of my passion and the issues I have interest in. But I would say, of course, people should do what they enjoy and what they feel they are good at. But my feeling is that gaining some knowledge about artificial intelligence and understanding to some extent how it works, and there is a range of possibilities there between being, an expert and being familiar with that can be achieved. There are many online courses today that are available in various platforms and so on. And my feeling is that this is going to be so dominant in our lives, that it is important to educate yourself in that. It is a little bit like, I think that in 10 years from now, if you don't understand this field, it is like being, if you cannot speak English, you are limited.